Hiya, welcome back to the channel. So we are on C1 number 2 today, and I'm actually sort of redoing a video that I did a while ago, and I'm redoing it because I believe I can do a better version of the video this time. Not because I've grown with my skills as a YouTuber or anything like that, but because I got a better phone and it's a bit clearer when recording. So we're on this one, and it is water leaks coming into the boot. Now I'll go through some of the causes, how to fix them, and some of the symptoms. So first, the symptoms that you might notice are obviously water in the boot. That's pretty much a giveaway. Water down there, also a giveaway. Now this symptom I haven't personally come across because I haven't got any friends, but if you've got some and you put them in the back seat, they might complain that they're getting a wet arse, or they might complain that the feet are sat in a paddling pool, because these footwells can fill up from the boot as well. Another symptom that you might notice is just steaming up of the windows all the fucking time. Other symptoms may include, but not limited to, yes. So let's start by, if we pull this shit out of here, it's fastened in. If we remove this spur Wheelingtons from here in a nice and professional manner, then they actually built from the factory, they actually built some drain holes, because it's as though they foreseed this being a problem. So if we take that out, and we take that out, yes, and then we can just lovingly scoop the nice clean fresh drinking water out of these holes here. And now we've completed the specific spur wheel well detailing procedure and put the bungs back in, we can reassemble it all, put it back together, before going eating a shitload of penicillin. Right, so now we have established that water that's meant to be on the outside of the car is making its way to the inside of the car. We can have a look at where it's actually likely to be coming in. The most obvious place where you'd expect a boot might leak is going to be the boot seal. Now in my experience this isn't actually that common, but they do leak, and the way to fix that is, I mean, you can put some gummy fledge on it, you know, clean it up and make sure that it's a good seal around there. You can adjust this a bit, so if you undo them, you can push that in a little bit to make sure that the actual boot, when it closes, is tight and not rattling about, which sort of done another video on that as well. And the other option is you can actually pull this off. Yes, you can pull this off, and if you get a block of wood, you can sort of tap this lip that shitter fits to, just tap it so it makes a better seal against the boot. Now I'm not really going to do anything with that bit on this video, because I'm pretty sure that that's not where it's leaking from. Now another place where the leak is this. Now we are going to have a look at that one. The other place, or the other places, is these. These leak quite a lot. They're quite common for leaking. And then there is the other one, which in my experience is actually the sort of the most common place for the shitters to leak, apart from the back lights, which actually I know they're pretty common as well. The bumper vents, which we'll have to take the bumper off to have a look at. So let's have a look at where our car is actually wet. Well, we can see that there's water there, there's water around here, and if we're looking here, yes, we've got water there as well. And where my suspicions are leading to is the lights, these lights, and these bumper vents. Now, in the other video I did a demonstration on how to check where the water's coming in from the bumper vents, which I feel like the lights get a lot more attention, and the bumper vents are actually probably more common. If you pour water on here, it run down here, and then you can see it coming into the boot. You might think it's coming from the lights, but down the back of here is hollow, and the water runs down the back of this light, and then the vents round here, and it's like, if we pull this shitter off nice and carefully, then we can see, with the aid of a light, we can actually see that there is trace of water coming from round here. Now, if we look there, yes, that is like a double skinned piece of metal, and that there as well. And the bumper vents are just on the other side of that. So that's where it will come in if your bumper vents are leaking. And it will usually end up down here, and more often than not, we'll fill these footwells up in the back. And it'll look like you've got a leaking door seal, because this can end up proper piss wet through full of water, which runs under here. And the trick to telling if it's coming in through the door, without putting talcum powder on, any tricks like that, is just feel this seat. And what it'll do is it'll run under the seat, and the seat will, like this seat feels damp. So that is coming from the boot, runs underneath, and ends up down there. So if you've got a puddle of water in your back footwell, chances are, I mean, it could be for the door seal, it could be from the pot windows, but chances are it's coming from the boot and coming forward. So feel your back seat. If that feels damp, then it's pretty much definitely coming from the boot. Could be coming from anywhere in the boot, that. In my experience, the bumper vents are the main culprit, and it throws it right down there. If your rear lights are leaking, then you'll see more water coming, usually from up here, but that can also just run down and go to exactly the same place as the bumper vents. So the right thing to do is probably just to take the bumper off and do everything. And this is the shit I'm going to use to try and seal it up. It's just, well, silicone clear gasket from a car spares shop. Now I'm going to start with the easiest place first, and this is why I've got clear, because I'm going to start with that. So as you can see quite clearly, there's a screw there that holds it in, and there's a screw there which also holds it in. So we need to remove these. Yes. And then normally you would just be able to pull this off, because this one has been sealed up in the past. I'm going to have to be careful with this because I could break it. I'm going to have to carefully lever it off. Normally it wouldn't be stuck on, but I have sealed this a few years ago, and I'm only doing this now. I don't think this is where it's leaking, but I'm doing it to make sure. So I need to sort of prise that off nice and carefully. Yes. Now, if yours has never been fucked about with and sealed up before, then you won't find a load of brown shitty gasket here. What you should have instead is like a little thin foam gasket. And the reason, I've come to the conclusion, the reason why them gaskets leak over time is because, I don't know if this picks up, but if you look at the light, they actually seem to bore. So instead of being straight, I mean the roof might be bored slightly as well, but instead of being straight, they actually seem to like not be anywhere near in the middle when you put them on. I'll clean all this shit off, and I'll see if I can show you what I'm actually talking about. Now this is quite hard to get off, but at least I've got a proper gasket scraper to hand. Right, and fuck it, that'll do. I've cleaned both sides of the sealing area. Right, so if we look at this now, this is what I was trying to say before. With the light unit, when it pushes in, it doesn't touch in the middle, because like I said, the plastic sort of seems to bow over the years. So if you are gonna just replace the gasket, it might not work. But also something to check for as well is, if you are gonna sort of, like I said, replace the light and the gasket or whatever, make sure that where it sits against, this bends quite easy. So make sure that when you put it on, none of this has been pushed in. You know, by pushing on the light or anything like that, you can sort of bend this in here. But I'm not going to fuck about with any of that. I'm just going to spunk a load of gasket all over everything. This gasket, the gasket that I've already shown you. So we'll open this, and then I need a precise applicator to do a neat and precise job. So I'll go about there. Now, you might need an adult to help you with this. But I was feeling specifically grown up today, so I did it all by myself. Now, the first place it might be worth putting some sealant is actually inject it into where the screw holes go. Because I want to make this hermetically sealed as good as possible. And then follow that by, and I'm going to do this with one hand, but just go around this perimeter of this light, as you can see now. And if you look carefully, you'll see that I've taken extra care to follow the area where the old gasket went. So I've gone around these holes and then right round it. So now I need to plug the shitter back in, because I didn't mention this, but I unplugged it because it gives you a lot more room to fuck about with it, which is a simple case of pushing. Yes, which is a simple case of pushing it together. When you want to take it out, like I said, I didn't show, this is a tab there, squeeze that and you can pull that out. So now that should be ready to put back into the area where it fits. And what we've got is there, if you see that you've got a bit of a gasket squelching out the sides, that means that you've put enough gasket on. I like how I was just filming the back of the window then, I think, but we'll see when I watch it back and be disappointed at my lack of camera skills. So we'll tighten this shitter up. We haven't got loads jizzing out the sides, just a little bit, but that little bit is enough. So we've got two options now. To neaten this up, we can either wait until it dries and then peel the bits off around the outside, so you know we've got a nice generous amount on the inside. Could have put more on actually, but I'm not taking it off again. Definitely got enough underneath. Put some of that onto the top. Yes. I feel like a plumber doing a bathroom. Right, I'm going to try and neaten that up a little bit by wiping off the excess with a suitable application tool or de-application tool. And that is the eye level brake light, hopefully sealed. So now let's move on to the next places where these things piss into the boot. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the rear lights and the bumper vents. Now to do the bumper vents, we've got to take the rear lights off. So I'll sort of say, you know, if you're going to stop before the bumper vents, then skip the bumper vents bit off. But this is how you take the rear lights out. So we undo them two screws there and place them in a loving suitable location. And then pull it in this sort of direction. Like so. Now as you can clearly see there, this has been done previously more than once, as you can tell by the various shades of sealant that we've got. These lights as standard have little shitty foam things on them. You can buy the foam things and it probably will work, as long as, if we see this bit here, this clip here which has been sealed before, this clips light in, so it clips into this here and it clips into this here. Now these are often broken and the light is free to flop around. Now if your light's flopping around, it's never going to seal without sealant. It'll only seal if you put sealant on it, not with the foam replacements, and them seem to be quite hard to get hold of. I mean, these ones are okay, but on the other one they're not. So anyway, right, let's move on to the next bit. Right, I need to unplug this shit to take this out of the way, which is just a little clip thing there. And the light on the other side is exactly the same, but in reverse. Well, not in reverse, mirrored. So I'm not going to do that on camera. And now both lights are taken off. I'm going to proceed to take the bumper off. Now if you're not doing the bumper vents, then skip this step, but I would recommend doing the bumper vents. So anyway, getting on to taking the bumper off, it's not hard, it's dead easy to take the bumper off on these cars. but we have got to lie on the floor to get under there, and it's been fucking pissing down, just for a change. So the first thing to take off when taking the bumper off, or the first thing I want to take off, is in line with the round here. If we go underneath, on both sides this is, if we go underneath, there is these plastic rivet things, which, if you have the right screwdriver or the right tool, aren't too bad to take out, but I need to lever that centre bit out. Yes. Now using the wrong screwdriver wasn't working, so I'm going to use the wrong key instead. You know, you don't really need to witness this, but it's coming now, look, I think. What a wind up. Yes. Woo! I forgot about this, but if you don't fancy lying down, you can actually get from the side, and you can sort of, instead of trying to prise the shitter out, you can push it out from there, which is easier. And I wish I'd remembered that before I actually got pissed back through, but this is where we are now. So the next thing to take off, just above the back wheel on each side, there is another little plastic rivet jobby, which one day was supposed to, I think, unscrew, but that day is long gone. So you just got to fucking try and get hold of it with something and pull it out with whatever means necessary. Yes. Right, so that's both of them little bastards out. So now I've got a 10mm bolt next to the fuel cap, which I'm all I can undo with this because it's all I've got. So yeah, I can undo with that. I'll be well sick if I were too tight for me to undo with that, because I've actually got no tools. So let's take that off. And then, so now this should only be a couple more bolts to take. First, we unhook this from there. Do the same on the other side. Yes. And then now we can take these out, which on mine are T30. We can't take them out, they're fucking tight. Which means that we have to use the correct tool. Then once we've used the specific torque bit torque multiplier, we can finish the job off as we intended to start it with just a normal socket driver. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but it started to piss it down properly now, so that's well good. So I better get a move on really, otherwise the car's going to end up wetter in the back of it than it ever was. And now that's all the bolts that are out, we should just be able to pull the bumper off. We can't pull it too far because we've got the number plate light still attached, but we shouldn't really need to pull it too far. Yes. And these are the vents that cause all the fucking misery. And the observant amongst you might notice that these have also previously been sealed up. Now, they look like they're alright actually. They do look like they're fine, but I'm here, so I'm going to seal them again. And I've got another method which I want to try and sealing them. So, normally, if you've got the standard... Actually, you know what, I might not be able to seal them again because they might not fucking come out. But if you have the standard sort of seals behind them, they all break up and then these actually rattle around. But these are sort of bonded in with a might of fucking Thor's hammer or something. And yeah, I've just had a bit of a closer inspection and it does appear that these are not where my leak is coming from. All the way around, the sealant is still strong and good. Now what I was going to do differently is I was going to seal them. Now when you put this in, if you've got the seals on here and it pulls out, you'll notice that it's like a little hook that goes against the plastic inside that holds the plastic in. And if you pull it out to where the hook is, there is a gap around here, which is where the normal seal goes, and that seal breaks up, disintegrates and fucks off. So then you put sealant in them, and the normal thing to do is to put sealant in, or the general consensus of what other people do, what I do, not everybody, but what I've seen is they put sealant round here and then just push it in and hold it in place. and then let the sealant go off. Now that holds this closer to the metal. Now what you need to do is what I was going to do, but like I said, this is sealed, this isn't going anywhere. What I was going to do is I was going to put the sealant all the way around it, a beader sealant, nice thick beader sealant, stick it in place, and then pull it back out until it reaches the lugs. And the idea is that this sits a little bit more prouder, so the water doesn't run over the top of it and into it anyway, rather than around the outside of it. And it's less likely to come off because it's not going to be pushed out if the sealant isn't working as hard to pull it in place, if it's not under tension being pushed in. But like I said, this isn't going anywhere. But that's what I'd do if I was doing it again. So just like I said, they pull out, seal around it, push it back in, and then pull it back out. Make sure the sealant fills the gap, and then leave it. Don't hold it in. You know, let the lugs on the actual piece hold it where it needs to be. So yeah, might as well put the bumper back on. What they're actually for, by the way, is if you slam a door or slam the boot, it lets air come out, so it has like a piss flap on there, and that's what they're actually for. So I mean, if you got rid of them, you might pop the windows out if you should slam the door instead. So anyway, let's put the bumper back on. Right, so now I've wasted a load of time, it's time to put the shagger back together. So the bumper, to put it back on, if we lift it up, it does in fact hook. You see there is hooks which do fit. Well, when you line it up, it will just sort of take it off you and hold it. You don't even need to line it up, it sort of does it itself. And then we can just put the screws and shit back in. So now the bumper is back placed upon the vehicle, it's time to seal the lights, put the lights back on. Now like I say, you might notice that there is already a big thick bead of sealant around here. If you're doing this for the first time and you are using sealant and not new foam gaskets, you do need to make this pretty thick, because otherwise it won't be thick enough to meet the light. If you just put a smear around there, it's never going to touch the light. Now obviously mine's still pretty thick from last time, so I can just dry this off, because obviously it is fucking raining really bad now, which is probably not the best time to be doing this job. So I'll just smear this around here in a nice big circle, or a square, as you can see. And now I need to plug that plug in, and what I've done before plugging it is I've spunked loaded WD-40 into there, and now I need to plug that in with that. Yes. And then I'm going to line that up, line that one up, and that's one light on. And now I put the screws back in, which as you can see I've put a bit of sealant onto the threads of the screws. Now I should have really put it inside the hole first, but I'm not taking it back off again. There's one, and there is another. Rather exciting. Right, so now I need to do the same shit on this side. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention as well, this will need sealing as well if it's not already sealed. It might not need sealing, but it's worth doing. I'm going to do this side. Now this is the side that was leaking. Quite evident from the fact that the light was really easy to take off this side, whereas on this side I nearly pulled the car over trying to take the light off. And we can see that it has done a bit of corrosion. So before I do start putting it together, I'm just going to spray a bit of WD-40 onto there, nice and precise, and then I'm just going to plug it in, unplug it, and do that a couple of times. Just try and clean the contacts. Now I've done that, I might mention another place where it can possibly leak. Unlikely, but can possibly leak, and that is this bit here. If you're changing the bulbs, you've got to take this out, and it has a seal around it. Now they can leak if they're not clipped in properly, but it's unlikely that that is where it's leaking. If that was where it's leaking, then the bottom would be full of water. So now I need to put this back on there. I've sealed around there as I did with the other side, so I'll put this shitter back on.
Yes.
And now, it's technically all back together. Now what I do need to do is see if the lights work. Because it seems that when you unplug the lights on these cars, for whatever reason due to corrosion and shitness, they don't work again when you plug them back in. So I would hate to find that out once the sealant has gone off. So I do need to test that. Yeah, awesome. Just go ahead and use this brake pedal holding device. Yeah. And with a bit of luck, that should be pretty much done. And I've finished doing this just as the rain has stopped and we've got some blue sky. Fucking typical. Anyway, that's all for this one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all the usual shit. Check out my Instagram. And see you next time.